What up, YouTube? Back with another chess video. I have not done a chess video in what feels like forever, like almost a year. And I have not played any online blitz, online bullet, no chess whatsoever until this tournament. So it would have been actually exactly 2 months since my internet addiction video, if you've watched that. Anyway, yeah, this was my first USCF game in a couple of years, so let's just jump right in. It was good to be back. I felt like hungry to play. I hadn't touched a chess piece, live or virtual, besides doing some puzzles in 2 months, and I hadn't played live chess since a big tournament I played in England in what was it? Was it February? I think so. Anyways, so over 6 months. So we got double king's pawn. Oh, yeah, so I'm playing white. My opponent is a little girl aged 10 named Sophie, who's already almost 1800, pretty impressive. So we got the Italian game here. Well, it could be two knights if she plays knight f6, but she plays bishop c5. This is the first opening I actually properly learned when I started playing at age 19 and 20 in college. I mean, my instinct was always to play the Rue Lopez and then trade because I thought doubling pawns was good. But yeah, it was a different time back in 1998. There was really no internet chess. I mean, you could play on Yahoo, but people didn't really do that. I mean, people just weren't really online. So I don't know. I'm pretty familiar with this line. I've been playing it longer than anything else. Not to say I'm an expert on it by any means, but so c3, knight f6. Black has a slightly lead in development, but after d4, white has more space. You could also play d3 if you want a slower game. She takes, I take, bishop check, bishop blocks. This is all standard, been played tens of thousands of times before, as you can see. I don't have the master database. I have Lee Chess, only games 2200 and above, and no bullet. So knight c3 is also an option. Black can take, and yeah, it gets crazy, but it leads to a forced draw, and there's a lot of theory and memorization. I mean, this is also obviously theory, but it's more kind of intuitive and easy to play, although it's pretty drawish with perfect play by black, but what isn't, right? So, okay, so here we have a crossroads. There's two main moves. As you can see, knight to e7 is the main move, but really close behind is knight a5. I mean, they both could be considered main lines. And after check, black pretty much has to go back, unless, yeah, well, I'll show you the game continuation, but pretty much has to go back. And then white can either try to repeat for a draw or try to play for advantage here. Although after this check and the queen trade, the engine gives tiny preference to black, but really it's anybody's game. Isolated pawn isn't so good, but white has a slight lead in development and open files for the rook. So, anyways, that's not what happens. Oh yeah, after queen b3, the other main line, as I said, is knight back here, and yeah, usually castles, and white will bring the knights in. And white tries to attack, but he has an isolated pawn, but he can get his rooks behind it or try to bring a rook to the c file. Well, not so much. Usually c6 is played. There's a lot of different ways to play. Looks kind of boring, but I've had some wins in this line. Anyway, so the game went like this. Actually, my highest rated win ever in USCF. After this move, my opponent went back. I came here. This is against a FIDE master, about 2400 USCF. And yeah, I had a nice tactical win in this. But here my opponent played the fairly normal c6. Probably planning to capture the bishop next move if she could. Or if I move the bishop back. Yeah, I'm not sure what she had planned exactly. Well, I mean, if I move the bishop back here, she can already attack it like this. But the correct move here, which I played, is bishop takes knight, queen takes. And then you can either castle or play rook c1 direct. And the threat is pretty simple. You're just threatening a fork. And yeah, the knight is pretty bad here. So she plays queen b5. The other more natural move is b6. And then you can kick the knight away and either win the pawn or just try to keep pressure on the pawn. But she plays queen b5, which has been played against me before in Blitz, maybe one tournament game as well. And I remembered that I'm supposed to play queen a3. But I didn't remember exactly why. Because, okay, I mean, it makes sense, right? Black can't castle, but also I can't castle. But I looked at some lines real quick with the engine, and it's pretty convincing. So the thing for Black to remember, she can't just develop the bishop somewhere, because this rook here is still a threat. So b6 is pretty natural. Knight coming in here. The engine slightly prefers this move with the idea of check, but the human move, which also scores pretty... Oops, sorry about that. Spoiler alert. Nope, here. Yeah, this move makes a lot of sense. And yeah, Black is just in a kind of an awkward position, maybe here. And yeah, but of course now White can castle. This doesn't work. So yeah, that would have been slightly better. After takes, the engine actually basically says that Black is almost equal in this position, despite me functionally having extra pass pawn. So here I played d5 because I want to cut the knight from having a natural retreat square, blocking the bishop from coming out to a natural square. Also giving space for my knight. Overall, good move. Black plays b6, which is understandable. Castling actually would have been slightly better, and just giving up the pawn like this. Yeah, these are engine lines, but this is not so hard to understand. Basically, okay, White has an extra pawn, but it's blockaded. It's on a light square where it could be attacked. And yeah, the engine says Black is about equal here. But it's kind of hard to play. No one really wants to play a pawn down if they can help it. So instead, b6 was played, which is more natural, making sure that she's not going to have to sacrifice a pawn. If I play b4, she'll reroute the knight here and probably here, and then basically similar position. I mean, that would be a dream if she had 3 moves in a row. She could play knight to b7, knight to d6 blockading, bishop b7 attacking, and she's just fine. So I have to act pretty quick. So I liked this move because it has a threat right away, and it's not just on the pawn. You know, if I played knight takes pawn, then I would have access to c7, d6. So, and again, like the computer says this is fine. The computer gives 2 moves as both pretty decent for Black that I don't think most humans would play. One of them is bishop a6. This is something I didn't even consider. I'll just show you the line just for fun, because this bishop looks terrible. You're giving up the 7th rank, but Black counterattacks. Yeah, the knight's attack defends the knight and then brings the bishop back, cutting off back rank checks. The knight's defended. The rook's attacked. This rook is pretty active. Okay, this rook is on the 7th, but I mean, you know, actually, on my human eyes, this actually still looks pretty good for White. I'm not going to put the engine on during the video, but yeah, I mean, to me, this still looks pretty good, but the engine likes it. And of course, this would have been much better than the game, which I'll show you. So in the game, she played the much more human move, bishop d7, since e6 isn't available, f5 isn't available, g4 doesn't make a lot of sense. I castled, and again, the engine says she should just castle, and again, she gives up the pawn, but moves the bishop back, attacks here, knight here with the threat, rook can't take. Anyway, I'm going through these lines kind of quickly, just to show that there's a difference between computer eval and kind of like how the game usually turns out in human terms. Yeah, maybe a grandmaster would also see some of these lines. And again, the rook blockading. And some of these ideas, even though they're computer ideas, are, things that people could understand. So yeah. But if she wasn't going to do that before, she probably doesn't want to do that now. And again, she doesn't really want me to get the 7th. I mean, people are like trains to, no rooks on the 7th, no rooks on the 7th. So she goes back here. Oops, is this right? I castle. She does go back here. Oh, right, I can't take this pawn. It's defended. So, she's hoping to come here, then castle. Yeah, I'm not actually sure what she's hoping because castling now is kind of risky. And, well, anyway, castling's all over now because I do give a check. So, yeah, she should have castled while she could because I don't have a rook on the 7th, but the king in the center is worse. So at this point, yeah, I could throw this in first, but I wanted to get all my pieces involved. And my idea with the move I played in e4 was to control the d6 square. So then after knight to c6, bishop takes, pawn takes, the knight doesn't have its best square. It also covers c5. So she plays a natural rook c8, wanting to trade rooks and kind of alleviate some of the pressure, but I check. Bishop takes. Yeah, there's really no good squares. Any other king moves runs into discoveries or worse. So she takes. I take with the pawn. Again, these two squares are covered. And in this position, yeah, it's a little too late to give up a pawn and get castled, obviously, because she can't castle. So she goes to a5, pretty natural. I mean, she's hoping, okay, I'm going to win the pawn back. Material's going to be equal. So I have to act fast here. So I gave a check first. And, yeah, here would be bad. And what was I planning? Oh yeah, this. And this move loses the rook right away to a check, and this move also loses the rook. At the very least, there may be better lines. I didn't look at that with the engine or anything. So she makes the most natural move to here. My original plan was to play here and then bring my knight here, and I'm like, oh, I'm winning the rook, but I'm like, oh no, oops, knight b7 defends that square. So I just checked again, and defended with h4. I haven't looked at this in depth. I'm not sure if this line is absolutely best, but at this point, it's like winning no matter what. So, yeah, knight takes is bad because I'm winning. Rook takes is also bad because I can trade rooks and then win the knight. So she, tries to attack a pawn. Also removes the defender of this pawn, but I just take a couple of pawns, and if she takes now, at the very least, I can trade rooks, and I'll have an extra pawn on both sides of the board. So instead of that, she takes the b pawn, but now I push c7, which is close to queening, but even more importantly, I have another checking square where I can pick off all the remaining pawns. She goes back, but now a4 is pretty deadly, removing the defender of the knight. Like in desperation, she trades rooks. But yeah, now I'm queening no matter what, unless she defends like this. But now I'm just winning the knight. So that was a good first game for not being in the tournament scene for a long time. Yeah, I had just a nice advantage out of the opening. The computer obviously was telling me I wasn't even really winning, but that doesn't really matter. Practically speaking, White had an edge the whole game, so it was pretty nice. So the second game, unfortunately, was a totally different story. First game, I knew my opening. The second game, we'll just jump into right now. So my opponent was older gentleman, Joseph Lazarus. And yeah, a little lower rated than the girl. And we got a London system. So this is an opening I kind of hate. And I should just play c5 here because I used to know it. The problem with my defenses against d4. I've played all sorts of different moves. I've played f5, I've played d6, I played d5, and I feel pretty confident against like Slav, mainline Queen's Gambit type lines. But against the London, I'm always like, I just kind of hate it. And sometimes when you hate something, you don't study it. They're like, oh, this is boring, this is tedious. And yeah, but anyway, you could see I played this really poorly. So far, so good. So already, this is move 3. And already I'm not sure, should I play knight f6 first? Should I play e6 first? If I had to do this again, if I had to do this again, I'd play c5 on move 2. But yeah, e6 would have been the superior move, I think. Again, I'm not an expert in this line, as you'll see very soon. And already I'm like kind of kicking myself for not knowing what I'm doing a little bit more. After c4, c6, queen b3, I'm like, oh, I'm already in trouble. So I played this type of position before with queen b6. Usually this move is not seen in queen's pawn lines, but here it's actually pretty good. I'm just throwing some moves up just to show you the idea real quick. And white just will push the doubled pawn, get rid of it. And you can see that black has a backward pawn, which can be exploited by bishop a6. Now in this particular line, yeah, black's basically busted unless he finds e5. Oops, not that move, but this move. And yeah, black is hanging in there, but it still just looks messy and ugly. And and if you don't find e5, you're screwed. But you'll see that this bishop move would have finished me off even earlier in the game if I had a chance. So I knew that queen b6 was bad. And I also knew that the move I played was bad, b6, but I couldn't quite remember why. It looks obviously bad. You're kind of like undermining the structure. You're making a pawn move that's kind of random when you're already kind of behind in development because it's white's move. So, knight c3. Finally, I play e6. Knight f3, and this is a pretty terrible move. That's like I'm basically just losing already. Better would have been to try to trade the bishops and then castle, but you can see this is already like very awkward. I have a hard time developing. It's not a good position. But instead I played here, and after pawn takes, I could have just been finished off right away. As it turned out, my opponent wasn't quite sure of his own theory, so he played h3. And now I'm back in the game. Although psychologically I'm not back in the game because I knew I'm in a bad position. I thought for about 10 minutes here and played b5. According to the engine, actually, now all of a sudden I'm fine. I could play a6, I could play a5, I could play b5. All of which I thought of. I decided to ultimately play b5. But the idea, instead of h3, black can play here. And you can see my rook is in a world of hurt. The two bishops are just killing him, basically. And my pieces are so awkwardly placed, there's just nothing I could do about the threat of bishop b7. And black is just lost. But after h3, I got some respite. But still, psychologically, it's, playing b6, then playing b5, being behind in development is not where you want to be. Fortunately, the position's closed, so according to the engine, I'm okay. If I would have known that this position is okay, I probably would have played better. So, and g4 I didn't think was such a great move. White's creating his own weaknesses. Here I played the kind of less natural move because I was thinking of ideas of bringing my knight here, and I wanted to make knight takes knight less of a appealing option. And also, I wanted the option to push pawns on the king side. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but mostly this was just kind of a nonconformist type of move. So the engine slightly prefers g6, but it basically says black is almost equal now. bishop g2, and now I'm like, all right, this bishop is not scary at all. The bishop should have been here on a6, and then it would have been game over. So I castle, he castles, and here I play knight e4, which is an okay move. Obviously, he can't take now because then pawn takes pawn wins a piece because the queen's hit. And yeah, I was hoping to get f5, which I did get in the game and try to attack on the king side. And he played queen c2, and now here I blundered. So I played f5. So this was me playing the man, not the board. My opponent was like an older gentleman, and I just thought this guy's kind of like a cautious player. I remember playing him before in Blitz, and I just thought, okay. And I was kind of tilted, as they say in poker terminology, like I was in a bad mental state because of how bad the opening went. And sometimes when you're in that state, you just kind of want to lash out and you don't think. You don't want to think. So yeah, here just knight takes, knight, queen takes, and rook c8, and black is totally fine. It's anybody's game. I have no weaknesses. White has, well, this could be seen as a weakness, I suppose, but he can't really attack it. If he does, I'll just take that off. And white's king side is kind of weak. The engine says it's basically equal. Yeah, I can try to get c5 in at some point. Oops. So, yeah, but instead of that, I fell apart really fast. I just wasn't thinking. I basically played like 1200 who can't think like more than 1-2 moves deep. So this is just obviously a bad move. There's probably multiple ways to punish it. I was hoping for something like this, and maybe I could make something happen on his king with something like this. But here, the way I'm talking already, this is not a good sign. Yeah, maybe g5, maybe here. So, something like this is not how you're supposed to play chess. And yeah, anyway, instead of that, he just took here. And now my something like this is like brought into the cold, harsh light of reality. And yeah, I just have a hanging piece. I don't have time to take his piece. And if I'm not careful, my whole center could collapse. And all of a sudden I'm put in a very passive position. I could try something like this. I could try this move. But yeah, this is just not so good. The engine gives rook takes and here, but yeah, you can see this is just very bad. I'm going to lose this pawn. Yeah, no attack. Okay, I could take here, but it's a bad position. Take my word for it, and I also wouldn't have seen I probably wouldn't have taken the bishop anyway. So I dropped back, very timid, and I'm not happy at all about this position, but I'm like, maybe I could hang on. But he has an open file. My queen is just stuck defending both these pieces. My rooks aren't connected. He's attacking. I'm defending. So he brings his knight in, which I pretty much have to take, because if I lose my dark squared bishop, even though it's a bad bishop, I still can't afford to lose it. So I take. Bishop takes. I thought pawn takes was also good. Let's see. Oh yeah, the engine says this is also good. Yeah, both good, but bishop takes is slightly better. And already here, I got down to like less than 10 minutes on the clock. Oh, I never mentioned the time control. This was like 40 minutes with 5-second delay. So a good fun, like quick, rapid time control. So now I played queen a5, which kind of felt like the most aggressive line, but I saw he could trade queens. But yeah, I played here, hoping he'll trade queens, and then at least my bishop's active, and also the bishop here defends this square so the rook can't penetrate. But he wisely gets out of the way and actually, yeah, now he's hitting my rook, but I was in such a bad headspace that I missed that my rook is hanging, and here I resigned. But even so, I could put the bishop here to defend the rook. I could put the bishop here. I mean, this looks very aggressive, right? I could dream of someday like having an attack, but really he's the one attacking me. But at least I can hope to fight another day. But instead I just blundered the rook, and yeah, there's no reasonable discovery, I'm just a rook down in a horrible position. So the first game kind of built my confidence, and the second game, yeah, oh good, it's recording. Woo! The second game totally trashed my confidence, but I mean, that's chess, and I was happy to be playing. And actually, in the third rounds, my opponent didn't show up. It was a quad, which is really messed up. If you're ever in a quad, like, make sure you show up all your games. So my third round opponent didn't show up, and then, but he only played one round where he beat this opponent, and then, yeah. So Sophie Lee got 2 points because she beat this opponent in the final game. It was crazy. I was hoping it would be a draw because then they'd have 1.5 each, and I would win the quad with 2 points. But so I tied for first. I got my entry fee back and then a little more, but I did have to pay for USCF because I haven't been a USCF member in a couple of years. So, but it was fun. I was less hating myself as much as I usually do when I lose a game. I'm like, man, there's so much going on in my life. I can't really afford to get too caught up on chess, but I still want to play to win, and I still want to learn. And I definitely learned something from this game. And and then the first game was just fun. So hope you enjoyed watching and checking out my chess content. I know I haven't made any in a while. It's just not a priority in my life right now. But once a chess addict, always a chess addict, and I still like playing. And I'll probably make content now and then. Thank you, and have a great rest of your life. Bye.